And welcome to this edition of Moving Well with Anthony Saul and Takia Geddes. We are so excited to be here with you today. We're going to be talking about a topic that's near and dear to both of our hearts, which is really how to select an exercise regimen that is in alignment with your truest self, like one that you're going to keep doing and not feel like it's an obligation, or one that causes stress, which is the opposite of what we want to do when we take on or enter into the wellness sphere, right?
Mhm.
Just so you know who we are, my name is Takia Geddes, and I am a therapeutic kinetic specialist and a lifestyle and life activation coach, and the creator of the Kinetic Life Revolution, where we help heart-centered seekers and leaders to really align with their essential nature and release the weight of their past. And Anthony can introduce himself as a stellar and amazing human. And
Thank you, Takia. And I'm Anthony Saul. I'm an ACE certified personal trainer and a NASM certified behavior specialist. So, yeah, this topic is very near and dear to my heart, like Takia said, because as a health and wellness professional, it's really important to me to be able to share my love for fitness and moving and kind of be able to find a way for any client or any person in my life to share that and rejoice in that love of exercise and just living a healthy lifestyle in any way that's comfortable for that, for sure.
that's awesome. You
Mm-hmm.
know, this is a near and dear to my heart. I think mostly the seed of that that closeness for me comes from actually finding my power as a child in movement. I had kind of a tumultuous background, and I first found my sense of self
Mm-hmm.
and personal power in movement.
Mm-hmm.
And so I find still to this day so much joy in it. I sometimes in the middle of moving, I'll just be giddy. I'll just be excited to be doing it. And I love it. And do I feel like that every single day, every single time? No,
Mm-hmm.
right? With ebb and flow, like, people who work with people in this vein, ebb and flow just like everyone does. It's
Mm-hmm.
just that we have a more discipline in our practice and have a different relationship with exercise, which is a
Mm-hmm.
great segue right into our topic. So, Anthony, kind of, what do you think is important about developing a healthy relationship with movement and exercise?
Yeah, so thinking from my perspective, I've been physically fit my whole life. I've played sports my whole life, and even before organized sports, I was always out in the backyard playing football or kickball or tag or wherever. It's always been a monumental part of my life, and I just as growing transitioning into an adult, I've seen the positive impacts, the joy, the confidence, just the endless benefits that it's brought me, both physically, emotionally, spiritually. It's made me a better leader, a better friend. It just in so many realms of life does having that good relationship with exercise benefit you. And it's kind of been a beautiful thing for me to be a personal trainer and to be able to combine my love for helping people, coaching people, and that love for movement and fitness into a nice, neatly packaged career choice that I'm able to embrace every day because I know that I'm sharing a gift of health and wellness and exercise with people and sharing that just great experience. So um,
Yeah.
it's been a really it's a really it's been a really fun time being able to look at each individual person that I come across, look at their emotional, their physical barriers to having that good relationship and working together to find a way to um, rework their relationship with exercise in a way that works best for them and doesn't totally interfere and uproot their lives and their already established routines, but also slightly incorporate those healthy habits as time goes on.
That's great. First, I just want to say that, I think it's awesome that you love what you do so much. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that's one of the things that a lot of people are missing, really choosing to do things that they enjoy. And
Mm-hmm.
so just touching on that around, what it is that that impedes people from developing that relationship, and which is coincides with what would be helpful for people to do to begin to develop that relationship or to shift it into a more healthy one. I think that the foundation of that is one, being really honest about where you are and what your current relationship is. A lot of times I think we can feel like gung-ho because we think we need to do something, but needing to do it and feeling obligated to do it, like we should do it, is often part of the resistance around getting it done. So I think being really honest about in our minds, like, about what our relationship is with it, so we can look at it with open eyes and honest heart. And if we know that we have resistance around, let's say, working out like 3 times a week in a gym, but we also know we need to do it, like, where can we start? So where does that conversation start with ourselves? Well, it's what I think it's really having a reason why, right? It's having a reason why that's not necessarily integrally connected to the movement itself, but the results, tension. What are you looking to create as a result of being engaged in this movement 3 times a week? So, like, if you can imagine yourself forward thinking into the future, having been doing it consistently, working out 3 times a week for 6 months, what are you going to do with this new energy that you're going to have, this new feeling of longevity and this new feeling of confidence, this new feeling of rejuvenation? Like, what are you going to do with that? And I think that's a great place to begin, kind of planting the seed in your mind about what you're going to choose to as your mode of movement is going to be, is picturing and imagining and being honest about what your intention is for creating for yourself. So maybe it's that you have grandkids that you want to be around for, and you want to get on the floor and play with them, but right now you have difficulty putting on your socks, or maybe it's that, you want to maintain your independence and you want to continue, to be able to, maybe you need to continue going to the farmer's market or going to the mall, and you need to be able to squat over a public toilet and hold it. And you don't want to have to be and go home, right? Like, these are real questions.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So I think just a place that I like to start with my clients and anyone in my life who I'm trying to encourage to pick up activity is to be brutally honest and create a realistic standard. And I think you said that, like, knowing exactly where you are and not going gung-ho. A lot of the times we see like the trope of the New Year's resolutioner who hasn't done anything for about 6 months. And then after January 1st, they hit the gym 5-6 days a week. They're overexerting themselves. Because you get that rush of motivation, that rush of inspiration. And motivation wanes, man. Like, that inspiration, that motivation is sometimes be 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, but oftentimes without any real backing and any real plan, that motivation tends to drop down. And that's why we kind of know that around March or April is when people start to fade away from the gym. So I always like to sit down with the person that I'm talking to and talk about their lifestyle, talk about their daily routines, and find steps that are realistic and slowly implement them into their lives. If you're eating out 5 days a week, all right, let's try to cut that down to 2 to 3, and then we'll slowly make some better choices. Instead of going with the steak, maybe we'll go with the salmon. Just looking at the person as a whole and being able to get an idea of where they are, where their motivation levels are, and just kind of be that driving force to make a sustainable plan with them is very key.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think it's always important to meet people where they are. And that's why I think we both said that it's really important to know where they are and to be honest about it. Sometimes we have a different idea in our minds about where we are also than what is actually showing up externally when we go to, like, say, a consultation with a trainer. Yep. And then we have that realization that we actually have deteriorated in our physicality more than we thought. And then we're like shocked. And sometimes we want to give up, or we want to, we're kind of thrown for a loop because we didn't realize how much inactivity it really affected us, or sitting for long periods. Some people go that route of wanting to quit, and some people want to do what you said, like press the gas full throttle and do 5-6 days a week, which, like you said, the motivation, if it's superficial and out of a fear-based kind of thinking, is going to fall away. Like if it's just that you're afraid that because you see that you are not able to do what you could do before, even a year or 2 years before, and you're afraid, and that having that be your motivation and carrying that energy into your workouts is not a good idea. And that's why I really think it's important to connect it to something deeper, like something that really brings you joy, like if you want to see the first peak, the first success that you have, like what are you going to do with that energy? And then also, what is it that it's ultimately giving you? Like, so I tend to go deep and I take things like to the core and the soul level with everything, because I think
absolutely.
So, what's your purpose on the planet, and how is your temple serving you in that way? The energy that we cultivate through movement and nourishment of our bodies really carries us through our lives to do what we're meant to do, to offer our gifts in the world, to whether it's charity or if it's serving in your line of work. Like if, you're a mental health professional, or if you're a construction worker, or if you're a teacher, whatever it is, being good to yourself in that way and having good habits really helps you show up as your best self, right? Because when you don't feel good, everything else in your life is affected.
And it affects the people around you, the quality of your work, the quality of all of your interactions. Sorry, go ahead.
No, that's okay. So if we take it back, to like the small nuances, if I were someone that was just starting out, and I'm looking at this picture or I'm just getting back, what would I choose to do? I would say, number one, you want to look at your schedule and be realistic about, where your free time currently lies. Because what I find is that there's a strong correlation between consistency and convenience. And so in the beginning, you want the choices that you make to kind of flow with your current patterns as much as possible, so that you have an in, so that you're not having to rework your entire schedule, your entire life to fit this thing in. So the easier it is to segue into, the easier it will be to continue on. And you can always make changes later, but just to get started, rather than delay the start date or delay the process, taking action is going to be directly related to your ability to start in a way that feels good and easier than not, right?
Yeah.
So it might start out just looking at your schedule right now. Okay, when in your current schedule do you have time, even if it's 30 minutes, to move? And you look at that, and then you don't pick 5 days, like as you were saying, you pick 1 or 2 days where you could just start doing something that you aren't currently doing, whether that's walking, or if it's you hire a trainer because you need assistance and motivation and accountability. You start taking steps toward making that part of your life now. So if your next actionable step is to call, if you already know of a trainer, you call them. If you know someone who can recommend someone, you call them immediately. The moment that you feel inspired to do it, you get that ball rolling, so that you're already making steps toward making it a reality. And so once it's fit into your schedule, I promise you that once you start, the more you do, the more you'll be able to do, and the more you're able to do, the more you're going to want to do. And more doesn't mean necessarily 5 days a week. It just means maybe that 30 minutes becomes an hour, and it's consistent, and it's immovable, like brushing your teeth. It's not something that can easily be replaced as soon as something better, shiny comes along, right? It becomes a staple, because early on, I think in the process, if we don't make this kind of commitment, what happens is this decision to start this thing that is new in our schedule is malleable. And malleable doesn't work out, I think, for some, especially in the beginning. But I think for some people, they have this idea that moderation is something that is real in the beginning. It's not. Moderation is for people who have already attained their goals and are just maintaining. Moderation doesn't work when you're trying to make a strong transformation.
That is an interesting take. I like that. Yeah, and I think that whole conversation shows the is why a good working with a good coach or a good personal trainer is so valuable, and that's where our roles really kind of shine, because it can be very difficult. The reason a lot of people are in these ruts, whether they're not exercising or not eating correctly, is because their lives are busy. Like, not everyone has the luxury to have sports their whole life, or a love for moving their whole life, or work in a gym. A lot of these people that we're working with, and just everybody has school, their multiple kids, excuse me, um, commitments to work, just so many variables in life that whether they're legitimate or more fabricated, are very real barriers to performing these activities. So that's where working with a coach or working with a trainer comes very in handy, because we have the ability to be an objective observer, look at your schedules and their days, and find those holes that they may not be seeing, and give them the input and the insight to make those changes very slowly and over time. So it can be very hard to get yourself out of the hamster wheel, while if you've been having these bad performing these bad habits for 10 plus years, whether that's overworking and not committing to your exercise, or not committing to proper nutrition, or whatever your issues may be with your physical or mental health. So that's honestly one of my favorite parts of the job, is to look at um, look at those potential barriers, and find ways, work together with the client and or the friend or the family member, and work together to overcome those barriers in a way that works best for them, for sure.
Yes, 1,000%, Anthony.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm a wholly a proponent of incremental change. You know, I think that's what sticks. When you do the drastic change really quickly, it never lasts.
Mm-hmm.
You find yourself regressing, and then you can find yourself demotivated.
Mm-hmm.
So I agree with you 1,000%. And you know, the law of inertia, you know, what we do carries on, you know, unless
Mm-hmm.
we're disrupted by a force. So that force might be a trainer, it might be some words of wisdom, and someone who has the experience to guide you and help you navigate the process of integrating this new habit in a way that feels good to you. I think that part of this process is developing a strong strategy to overcome obstacles. Most people who are starting out, this is not the first time they've thought about doing some kind of a change, but what happened previously, some kind of obstacle got in the way and hindered their progress.
Mm-hmm.
Or if they were already on a path and they were working out and doing things in a way that was helpful, then some other obstacle came in and disrupted it. And so to look at what you've done previously and say, okay, these were my obvious obstacles. Let's work together to develop some preemptive solutions so that those
Yep.
obstacles will deter us next time.
Yeah,
And then
absolutely.
let's look at our life now and say, okay, what potential obstacles do I foresee? Because even if they're just mental obstacles, they become real,
It's
because if
still
they're
very
here,
real, absolutely.
it's like when you try shoes on and like sneakers on in the store. If they hurt a little bit in the store, they're gonna hurt a lot when you get out in the
Yeah.
like, you know. So
Mm-hmm.
even if you think it's an obstacle, write it down, and then let's work out a strategy so that you know, we create the least amount of resistance to you moving forward as possible.
Yeah, and I want to double back on that idea of not allowing your goals to be malleable, especially at the beginning, because those small decisions to lace up your running shoes after work and go for a walk or go for a run when you really don't want to are truly the paradigm shifting moments. And it's so difficult to see that in the moment, or it can be, when it just feels like another run or another walk or another day that's like, oh, it doesn't matter, I'll just do it tomorrow. Those moments cannot be overlooked or undervalued. And if you don't, I like, not everyone has the luxury of being able to work with a trainer or coach. So on those days, that's when you, as the individual, have to really bolster yourself mentally, and make that decision, make the small decisions every day to do something that's hard. And I think we kind of talked about that in the last episode. making those difficult decisions every day, especially when you don't want to. And
Yeah.
those small decisions are the snowball effect and the law of inertia, like you said, that lead to long-term success and avoid the yo-yoing that we see so much in the general population.
Yes, I agree. So there's a saying that the neurons that fire together wire together. So if you have emotions in a moment that, oh, I don't feel like doing it, and then you don't do it, you have a tendency to continue not doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if you have a moment of not feeling like doing it, but then shift your state and by starting to do it, and then you start to feel good, then you'll actually begin to move in the direction of having that be a more of a habit ingrained, right? So whatever you do the most shows up. Whatever you do together, the emotionally and then physically, becomes your way of being. Um, and there's something else you said earlier. Yeah. So the obstacles that we're talking about also can be they're all going to be starting in your mind, right? Whether it's actual you know scheduling conflicts, or if it's something like self-judgment. They're both obstacles, and they're both in here because who sets your schedule, right? So whatever decision making process that you went about to make your schedule and made working out less of a priority had everything to do with your own thought process, no matter how you look at it. So that's why it's important to go internally and really make the decisions from a place of conscious awareness of what your obstacles are, right? So some of the things that show up for people a lot are, that I just don't have enough time. There when the people have obstacles around time, a lot of times it's really about whether or not they feel like they're worth the time. Because yeah,
Prioritizing the wrong things and investing your time in the wrong things that are not. It's like, oh, I don't have any time to work out, but oh, you just told me you watched 2.5 hours of Netflix at night. Like, are you sure? Like, so it's just, and I think that's what makes making dramatic changes such a difficult thing for a lot of people, because making a change like this, especially to your physical or spiritual health, it's an identity shifting decision. Like, I'm asking you to reframe your entire mindset you're forming for the last 30 years without even realizing it. So that's a really big task for people. And oftentimes that's why we see the yo-yo epidemic of people like falling on and off, because it really takes a lot of mental gymnastics and a lot of dedicated work to reframe your whole mindset. So and that's what I'm gonna keep coming back to it. That's where working with a coach or a trainer or even someone to keep you accountable and call you out on things like that is very important, because it can be tough to look at yourself objectively, because we all so just being, and if you don't have the luxury of being able to work with someone, then it takes a lot of deep self-reflection and a lot of foresight, looking into the future and thinking about what the path you are currently on will lead to, and what the path that the best case scenario can look like. And that kind of goes back to this is something that I'll guilt my parents with, because I'm like, Mom, if you continue on the path that you are currently on of not being physically active, it might not reflect right now because you're healthy and in good shape and you're relatively young. Yeah, I need you to look into the future and think 20, 30 years down the road when you have grandkids and you can't, your back hurts or you're overweight and you can't keep up with them. Think of how harsh that reality will look like, and then look at the other way. If you just build a decent relationship with exercise and make it a part of your life, and imagine how great things can be, and keeping that in your mind when you don't want to put your shoes on and go for the run. Keeping that in mind when you want to stop at McDonald's after work because you're tired and you don't want to go home and make the chicken at home. Keeping that grandiose image in your mind when every decision you make, especially in the beginning when you're forming these identities, is so key and so vital to me.
or whatever it is that motivates you the most. Whatever
Absolutely.
your why is that gets your heart pumping and, motivates you to put your shoes on and go to the next appointment, whatever that is. I suggest even writing it on an index card, keeping it in your wallet. You can put it in your visor, put it on your bathroom mirror. Like, have your why available to you so that when you're in those moments of shifting emotions and not feeling like it, that you can look at it and make a different choice. You can choose you every time. So another obstacle that I think that comes along the way when people are first starting is the lack of patience. Because they have this idea that if they start, they're just going to start seeing results in like a week.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not untrue that changes happen in the first week. But what you start to see, I think, more than changes in your physicality on the external, are changes on the internal. Your ability to make better choices in your life, your ability to have just a sense of integrity in your body and your posture. Little things start to get easier over the first several weeks, like walking upstairs might feel a little bit easier, or getting out of your car might feel a little. So you have to learn to see what successes are that are not the traditional scale wins, so that you can allow yourself to feel successful along the way and not just at some peak later down the road.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think that could be a very difficult thing to ask of people, especially if they've never been consistent with something, or consistent with exercise, or consistent with proper nutrition, because we're an instant gratification society because of how our society is built now. So it can be difficult. Like you see, though, you might see anecdotes on Instagram or Twitter or whatever it is of people losing dramatic amounts of weight very quickly, and that kind of is the only precedent, or the only template in their mind, is drastic changes, because they are not happy with the situation right now. And it can just be difficult to have that perspective if you've never physically worked for something over time. And I think that's another luxury that we have, is that we have to acknowledge, like a privilege that we have to acknowledge, because we've played sports our entire lives. We understand how long it takes to get good at something, and being an amateur at something and being like a fool at something is a very valuable tool, because we know the process. We have a love for the process. And that is something that is very important, is learning to enjoy that process over time. And like you said, that's by looking at the non-scale wins and enjoying those little victories every single training session or every single day. Yeah, so incremental, man, is just mental fortitude at the end of the day.
And what I love about what we're talking about right now is that it's implicative and applicative to our lives as a whole, right? Enjoying the process, because so often we even foresee happiness in the future, when the kids move out, when I get this degree, I'll be worth it when I do this, I'll take this trip when this happens. But the process every day, the things we do day in and day out, this is our life. This is life now. And so the same thing is true when you're, building that habit. Enjoying each session and seeing the successes in each session is just as important as whatever, long-term goals you set, because this is life. This is it right now. And so every time you forgo the access to your joy, because you're foreseeing the big success is the only thing that matters, you're withholding joy from yourself and a sense of satisfaction and worth that can really be a foundation for your success in all of life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think something that is a very important part of my life, and something that I've been lucky enough to have come naturally, is this idea of gratitude. Gratitude for finding something to be grateful for and get excited about every day. Even if you have a long commute to work and you may not love your job, or you have a lot of stressful events going on in your life, finding some small thing to be grateful for, whether it's regarding your exercise or your family life or whatever goal you're trying to attain or whatever behavior you're trying to change, is such a valuable tool. Like, for instance, when I'm driving to work, I have my windows down, the sun is shining, and I like a song that comes on that I truly love it. And I take that moment to soak it in and be like, man, this is life. This is what it's about right now. And that will fuel me for the whole day, and that will lead to better workouts. It'll lead to better interactions with my friends, coworkers, and clients. It'll lead to me just such a cascade of events. And I think, unfortunately, people, because of a variety of reasons, our technology use, our relationships with work, we tend to lose that and just kind of go on autopilot sometimes. And that is a very dangerous way to live, especially in terms of like your fitness and wellness and overall well-being.
Yes, I think that what stands out the most for me in what you just said and what we've been talking about the last few minutes, especially, is the importance of appreciating your body now. So a lot of times also we withhold gratitude for our bodies until it looks the way we imagine it should.
Mm-hmm.
And I found myself today just touching my body and saying, thank you, thank you, thank you. I touched my whole body and just said, thank you. Thank you for moving me today, walking me today, beating for me today, breathing for me today, just giving me access to life again today. Like just being grateful for it as it is and seeking harmony with it now, not at some future date. But knowing that right now, so many magical things are happening automatically that you're not even doing, that is giving you life. You know what I mean? It's amazing. These transformative temples that carry us into every experience that we get as human beings are amazing. So, we focus a lot on what it looks like. And what we're seeking now is more satisfaction from just the fact that it is, that you have it, and seeking to feel good in it now.
And I think using that same template, and that you loving your body and being grateful for what you have and the fact that it's functioning and able to carry you through all these experiences will also lead to a high respect and a high regard. And that will also fuel you to want to take care of it more than you maybe have in the past. Yeah. And that will, like, I think of oftentimes as exercise as rewarding my body almost like a car. It's like you want to value that car. You want to take care of it for as long as you possibly can. You want to give it the best tools, the best resources to function as well as it can. So every time I feel like I go for a run or I go for a walk or I even get a good night's sleep, I'm investing in my body so that it can take me as far as I'd like it to go. I can live a highest quality of life for as long as I possibly can.
I agree. I feel like I've been gifted the job of custodian, as steward of this temple. And so when I'm making choices, what helps me too is when I look at what I'm plating for myself, I know that food, that energy is actually going to become part of me. When we consume food, it becomes literally part of us. It becomes who we are. So I can ask myself, do I want this to become part of me? Do I want my cells made out of this? Right? Do I want my breath? Do I want my eyes? Do I want my heart to be made of this? And it shifts your thinking because you're eating to nourish yourself and not to satisfy just your palate. You're looking to give yourself the energy to carry you through these new experiences that we're having. So I, on a super spiritual level, right, and a soulful level, my contemplation and my conceptualization of myself and this physicality is very much, pointed toward knowing that the mind is in every cell. Every cell is conscious. So when we speak things, the cells hear us and they actually respond to our voice. It's energy. It's all vibration. Every cell is conscious. That's where our mind lives. Our brain is in our head. Our mind is in every cell of our body. And what I know also is that the soul is in a space between. We're like 97% space. Soul is in every space in between and everything beyond. So we're connected to it all. So for me, movement is transcendent. It's transcendent. And so you can think about it on that depth, and that's for those who that will resonate with. And then you can also think about it from the very, very, pointed view of your current reality, needing to lose weight to keep your health in check so you can be here for your family. Like,
absolutely,
both ways work.
Absolutely, no, and I think looking at it like that, especially for someone who is within their groove and in their like that at that high commitment level, and they've found value and they've found something that works for them, can just bring you to a different level for sure. And truly build that great relationship with your body and your relationship to movement and the way you consume things for sure.
Awesome. I think that's a
Beautiful
wonderful
talk.
place to land the plane.
That is phenomenal. That was a really great talk to Kia. Thank you.
You too. Thank you. I'll see you
Really
next.
excited to share this and get it out there. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
All right.